Hello everyone, very good evening. Once again, welcome back to the session. Welcome to 360DigiTMG Python interview preparation session here. So last few days we were discussing loops. Now we have started with functions. So you all people know that basically we have many functions which are inbuilt in Python. So you are getting certain functions within Python that you need not even call any module or any package. But certain times what happens, all the functions are available here, they may not fulfill your requirement. So certain times you need to write your own logics, right? And it has its own advantages of using custom based functions. So yesterday we have understood that there are different ways of giving arguments to your functions which you are defining. So any logic you want to write, you may say that there is a function called as a square root, but certain times maybe you can write it on your own also, right, using the formula for that, right? In that way we can define, we can give an argument, we can go with the default values, we can use keyword arguments. So there are many ways that you can write your custom based functions. So the good developer, what I can say is that whenever we talk about writing a very good programming, it means that any minor changes should be done within very less amount of time. So for small change, if the client asks you to give certain changes have to be done, you don't take 2 to 3 hours or 4 to 5 hours to solve that particular problem. A small change has to be done within very less time, maybe 5 minutes, 4 minutes. That's where we go for user defined functions. The entire function, whatever you're doing, you need not check wherever you have defined that particular function. You have called that function multiple times. Maybe your code is 1,000 lines. You need not check all the 1,000 lines. Only go to that particular function. You have defined it. Do the changes to it. Finally, that entire change will be reflected in all the lines of code where you have used that particular function. Whereas in inbuilt functions, if you have written a print function like hello, good morning, if the user wants an exclamatory mark there, you cannot go for that print function if it is written in line number 100, line number 300, line number 400. You have to go there, put the exclamatory mark, come back, check it. So for one change, you are taking so much of time. So in certain cases, definitely it is very flexible for us to use user-defined functions. Yes, definitely there are other certain functions which are very useful, like inbuilt functions are available, like you have filter function, map function, right, which have their own they add their own value to the functions which are given by Python. So today we are starting with Ashutosh, right, continuing with it. Okay, we'll start with Bharat. Okay, Bharat, I would like to share my screen and ask you, because we have discussed certain things yesterday, right, like default values and all that. I would like to know what is the output of this particular function.
All right. So here we are defining a function called as fun1, fun1. And then in the arguments that we are passing, default arguments, we are passing the values. Okay, 20. And then when we say f, that is fun1, let me execute this. Do you mind if I execute and showcase?
Not required actually.
Okay. All right.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you just tell me what is the output of this.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from our friend. Why we need a function? From one of our friend, we have a question. Why we want functions?
Yes. See, we multiple lines of code. We do not have to write each and every time. Right? Here we are dealing with, maybe 5 or 6 lines, but in real time, there will be, hundreds and thousands of lines of code you have to write. Each and every time you don't have to write. You define that in a function, and then you can use that particular function every time that you use it. So that is one benefit what we can see, especially with user defined function, custom defined functions. Anything that you would like to add, Deepti?
Actually, without function, we cannot execute certain things, right? We
Correct.
want functions for that. Now, when you want to do any change to a function, you want to enumerate, you want to pick up only the indexes, you want to filter few things, you want to do certain sorting, right? Functions are required. So like how we want operators, how we want for loop, while loop, loops, functions are also a part of a programming language, right? To perform, to evaluate certain things. Like we have seen eval function. Why eval function is required? Because, we are clueless at what user is going to enter. Right? So functions are definitely helping us to do certain things.
So in short, if I just summarize it, what you guys have just said. So function is basically, a piece of code that we are writing to carry out any particular task. In short, that is why we are using your function. Am I right, Dipti?
Yes, yes. Whenever you want to use it, you call it.
Exactly.
With certain parameters, we can say, with certain arguments, we can say. Yeah, Bharat, what is the output of this?
Yes.
You want to execute it and show it? No problem. You can do it.
Yeah, I will give the answer by myself. We'll have to call the function in a separate cell. The output that you get is Raju space 25. Is that right?
Now you can execute it and we'll cross check it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll stop my share.
Let me execute that.
So I would like to explain to our viewers why he said Raju 25, because the name is not passed as a default argument. So Raju is not passed as a default argument.
That is correct.
But you have something which is passed 20. If you don't give 20, it would have taken 25 only, because though you have given 20 there, you have passed
That's right.
25 in the function 1. Right? You have passed Raju and 25. If you don't give 25 also, then we are saying that that is a default argument, age equal to 20. Yeah, Bharat, please continue.
Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Everyone? So I am specifying a value. After colon, it will by default take the right position. And I can execute this line, and later I will call the function. Is this the right output that we are looking at?
Yeah, it should be Raju 25.
That is correct.
Not be 20. Why? Because you have passed it as 25 here.
Correct. It will not show 20 by default because these arguments are being passed.
Exactly. Okay, Ashutosh, the same thing to you also. I have a question. Let me maximize my screen. Yeah, can you please explain me what is the output of this? Simple.
So what is happening over here is actually it is quite simple. We are defining a function sum which is holding values a comma b, and then I'm returning using the return function. I'm saying a, I guess that is -5. A minus 5, right, Deepti?
Yeah.
Minus 5. Okay. So I'm saying A minus 5 and B minus 5. And the result I'm taking, I'm using your sub function, which is holding the values of A and B. So essentially, what is going to happen over here? It is going to take 3 minus 5 as the value of A. So the answer is going to be your minus 2. And for B, it is going to take 2 minus 5. So the answer is going to be minus 2. And eventually, so you will be, when printing the result, it will be showing you minus 2 and minus 3. Let me just execute it if you want to.
I think it's not required.
Okay.
It's quite simple, right? 3
Yeah.
minus 5. See here, for the viewers, I would like to explain. Sub is a function. And here I have given two arguments, A comma B. I am passing here this. So what it is going to return? Yesterday, we were discussing about the print function and the return function, right? So return would perform certain operations here and then give you the output. It returns directly. So no need of print function there. So it is going to take 3 in the place of A, 2 in the place of B. So 3 minus 5, 2 minus 5. That would be the answer. Okay, thanks, Ashutosh, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Bharat. So why don't you explain me keyword arguments in Python? Functions.
Like we discussed earlier, in Python programming, there are different arguments. One of which is what we call it as keyword arguments. So what we do is, instead of just passing the values in your function call, you can simply specify the parameter, okay, the argument of that particular value, and then you assign it. Simply similar to your key value pair mapping, right? We have keys in it and as well as the values. The keys get mapped with the values, correct? Similarly, in keyword arguments, you have the key value pair mapping kind of approach in the keyword arguments. Okay. So there is a specific name parameter for these values, and it will take that. In fact, it will avoid for any possible confusion. That way, where you're matching your keys along with your values. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is this correct, Deepti?
Yeah.
Or would you
Whatever
like
you
to?
are. No. Yeah. Calling the name of the parameters and values, it helps us to understand, right, what you are passing, and to avoid any confusion, you can use such arguments. They are called as the keyword arguments. So you have a key with a value. Okay. So I would like to add something else also here. For keyword arguments, the order of the arguments does not matter.
That is right.
Right? Either you give, suppose you are defining any function. So Bharat, would you like to show to our participants that order is not important?
Yes. Let me share the screen. Okay. So I will define a function. I will say TEF. And my function is, I'll say favorite language. Okay. And then I'll pass. These are the arguments. These are the parameters that a user has to pass. Okay. And then if I use a print function and I say hello, I am. And within this, I'm passing okay. Name. I want to have the name in it. And my favorite language, or when I say language, it is programming language. Language is you pass the language. Okay. Now, if I execute this, let me execute first, and then I will call the function. Okay. This is my function, right? Name is equal to, or I'll just pass Bharat, my name, language. Okay, and the language is Python.
So is that true? Your favorite language is Python, huh?
Yes, of course, it is true.
Great, great.
No doubt about it.
Mhm.
Okay. See, you can also do a print off hello. Here I'm saying I am. Okay. Why am I writing the same thing? Okay. I will call the function. I will just say this should not be the case. Hold on. And my favorite programming language is, and I pass the language. Okay. Once I do that, language is equal to, I'll say, I'll pass Python. And then name is equal to, see, for this particular key, this is the value. And for this particular key, this will be the value. Okay. it should give the output. Okay, is this line?
Can you scroll down, Bharat? Let me check. Me also. Yeah, Sush, what can you comment? Can you add that print f there in the function only, fourth cell?
Okay. Right?
Yeah, run that. If I'm just thinking that could be something. Yeah, run fifth line, fifth cell. Now you got it.
Probably.
Yeah,
This is what we need.
that is not required now. You can
That
delete
is not
that.
required. Yes.
Yeah, this one you can. You have to explain. Yeah.
Yes. So these
Order
are
is
the
not important.
keyword arguments. It is similar to your key value pair mapping where you are passing the keys and the values. For this particular key, this will be your value. And for this particular key, this will be your value. Okay, these can be changed.
That's what we are seeing here. That if you give language, order is not important.
Correct.
But if you don't give that particular key called as name and language, if you change the order, then it will throw us an error. Like it does not match. It will just give us the wrong thing. So here you give name first or this because you have the tag key along with your function, whatever you have defined. So it doesn't matter here in keyword arguments. Okay, thank you, Bharat. Yeah. Yeah, Ashutosh.
Yes.
Yeah, arbitrary arguments are also there, right? Like yesterday
Exactly.
he has defined. Can you please?
Okay, so see, when we are talking about Python programming language, so what happens is sometimes we will not be knowing in advance, the number of arguments that will be passed in a function. There may be instances where you will not be knowing. So Python is allowing us to handle this kind of situation through function calls with an arbitrary number of arguments. So what we have to do is in the function definition, we can use your asterisk before the parameter's name to denote this kind of argument. So if you just allow me, I would like to share my screen and then further explain this to our friends.
Yeah, please. Sure.
So we are talking about using the asterisk. So suppose here I'm defining a function, say greet, and I have to use asterisk mark, right? So asterisk say names, right? And then I'm saying for name in names. For name in names, right? Right? Hello. Comma. Name. And then I'm saying greet. And I'm giving some names random. Say, let me give your name, comma, Bharat, comma. Let me give our moderator's name, Rajshekhar. The man behind, the play, Rajshekhar. Okay. So if I just run this, we are observing over here that we are getting greeted. We are getting greeted over here. So what is actually happening over here? So here I have called a function with your multiple arguments. If you observe, I'm calling the function with the multiple arguments over here. Asterisk function we have to use, right? Now these arguments are getting wrapped up into a tuple even before being passed into the function. So inside the function, we are using your form to retrieve all the documents. that we want in return. So that is how we are using your asterisk, over the.
Ashutosh, you want zoom the screen a little bit.
Yeah. I hope that is fine.
Yeah. Now, can you once again explain, please?
Yeah, sure. What has happened over here is here I have defined a variable breed and I'm using this asterisk over here. And why we are using the asterisk? Obviously, because when you are not knowing, the number of arguments that needs to be passed, in that condition, we can use your asterisk. Python is giving us that luxury to use that. So what is happening over here is, here we have called the function with multiple arguments. Deepti, Bharat, Rajshek. Right? So these arguments are getting wrapped into a tuple even before being passed into the function. So inside the function here, again, I'm using your for loop. And why I'm using your for loop? In order to retrieve all the arguments back. That is why I'm using this.
Yeah, exactly. So we know that, yes, we have discussed in loops also the same thing, like, whenever we want, we know that we want to retrieve something which is of limited iterations are required, we use for loop. So for name in names, so how many names you have, but the names is not only names, it is asterisk names. So how many the user is giving the names, all that should be retrieved and it should be printed. So someone asked here that, what is the purpose of functions? Suppose you have written your own print function without using that greet function here. Print is a function, right? So what happens here? Now your client would say that I don't want hello, I want an exclamatory mark beside hello. So what will you do? You go and do changes to all the print functions available there, right? So certain cases, yes, inbuilt functions are helpful. Certain cases, user-defined functions are helpful. So without functions, we cannot perform any tasks. We want the results. We want to perform any operations. Also, we want a function, right? You want to sum up. You want to add. You want to delete. You want to do some operations. We need something. You want to calculate average.
So here, if you observe that I have added my name also, Ashutosh. Yeah. Now, because of this asterisk function, now it is taking my name. So, and we keep, if we, add other names as well. And if we just run this, so it is going to consider all the names.
Yeah. Very minor changes are required if you use user-defined functions. That's the advantage, actually.
Exactly.
So in that way, we have seen keyword, arbitrary arguments, default arguments. So the way you define your function changes. Okay, so here we'll stop here. So we'll continue our discussion tomorrow with inbuilt functions in Python. So thank you all for joining in, friends, and hope you are all having great time watching all these videos. These are being helpful to you a lot. So thanks for joining once again, and thanks to all those who are, watching our recorded videos also. So thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you,
channel, and also click the bell icon to get the notifications.
Thank you,
and the updates. Thank you all for joining.